everyone, it's NonnaGrace. I was looking at the camera to see if it was placed right. And I'm from Western New York. Today I'm going to do, it's sort of a tag, but it's not a tag. It was a few questions that OMAD Caroline did in hers, and it was a to get to know me tag, but I don't care for all of the questions, so I'm only choosing the ones that I like. And if you'd like to do this, you're welcome to do it. I'm not going to tag anybody because I really wasn't tagged in this. I just going to answer the questions that were presented. Just a topic, yeah. One of them was, what is the dumbest way you've ever been injured? I said to Jim, I have 2 dumb ways that I was injured. One was I was chasing, now Mark was my friend, Marky. I used to call him Marky.
Childhood friend.
Childhood friend, yeah. He and I would spend a lot of time together. He was like a year older than me. And I was chasing him one time, and we had, in the backyard, there was a piece of tin that was on the ground, and I stepped on the tin, and when I slid, I fell, and my hand went into a nail. So I punctured my hand with a nail, and came in and told my mother I punctured my hand with a nail, so she put some peroxide on it, and it buzzled out, and that was the end of that. Today, they would have taken you to the doctor probably and had you get a shot and tetanus shot, and it would have been a whole big fiasco. And the other time I got hurt, it was with Marky again. We were down the creek, and you know, when you'd go down the creek and you'd wade in the water, the creeks were really slippery, so I never wanted to get my slacks wet. So I used to actually remove my slacks, and I wore suspenders. So I was wading in the water, and I must have fallen on one of the pieces of slate that was there that was kind of offset, and I cut my hand like a diagonal right across. And every time I take my hand out of the water, it would hurt terribly, but if I kept it in the water, it felt better. So Marky ran back to my house. Well, first he had to help me get my britches back on because I had taken them off, and it was really hard because the suspenders, if you don't get them just right, you can't get your pants back on the right way.
How old were you?
Oh, I was probably 5 or 4. I was young, maybe 6. I don't know. We used to be, you know, we were allowed to play down the creek and in the water at very young ages. We were
considered responsible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like today where you would say, oh my, I didn't even let Emily cross the street till she was 13. That's really sad. It's because I didn't think she was bright enough to look both ways, where she probably was bright enough, but who knew? So anyways, he had to help me get the slacks back on, and he ran home and got my brother Anthony. And Anthony came with a pan of water. Instead of filling the water at the creek, he came with a pan of water because I had to walk home with my hand in the water. It always felt better if it was in the water. Something about the water stopped the pain of the cut that was on my hand. And we put Vaseline on it when I got home, and of course peroxide, of course, again, and Vaseline in the heel. And that was, I have one more that I did dumb. That was a dumb way to get burned. On the electric stoves, when I was young, I didn't know which burner I had turned on because it hadn't turned red yet. So what I do, I took my hand and I put it on this burner, Well, actually, I did the front burners first. This burner, this burner, this burner, and I should have known the last burner was going to be hot because the others were not. And I put my hand on and I burned the whole palm of my hand. Another time where just bag balm, I think, was the thing we put on or something, even though they say you don't put grease on a burn, but it made it feel better. It gave the skin, as it healed, a chance to stretch and not shrink up and get tight. Those were the injuries that I sustained. That was a dumb way to get hurt. Dumbest ways. I guess I had 3 dumb ways. Oh, well.
I guess you did.
Yeah. And what was the biggest screw up in the kitchen? You know, this was, my brother used to tease me all the time because, you know, you want to cook something. And so I thought, well, I'll make Jell-O. I wanted to make Jell-O the fast way, where you put the Jell-O in and then you use the ice cubes instead of just water. Well, I forgot to let the gelatin dissolve before I added the ice cubes. So here's speckles in my Jell-O. I made Jell-O, but it was speckled Jell-O, and he says, you can't even boil water and make Jell-O. That's pretty sad. And then the other thing that I made two things that were bad. I don't bake at all, unless it's a pie. And I had to make a coffee cake. And I wanted to make a coffee cake, but I didn't know the difference between baking powder and baking soda. I know it. So I put baking soda in instead of the baking powder, and it was so bad. The dog wouldn't even eat it, so I had to end up throwing it over the bank. We used to throw things over the bank at one time, and that was sad because that wouldn't even be eaten by the dog. The other thing that I would tell you about was my worst haircut. You know, I never worried about a haircut because your hair will grow. But this one time I went into the Fantastic Sam's is what I went into. It was a place that I had never been in before, and I thought, I'll get my hair cut. So I went in there, and because I use an old term, apparently this girl had no clue what I was talking about. But I said I'd like a layered cut. She did not understand me, apparently. But when you don't understand, you're supposed to question exactly what it is you want, how long you want, what do you mean by a layered cut. And I said, well, I just need it tapered. And so in her mind, tapered was buzz me to nothing, just about. So she kept cutting, and I wasn't facing the mirror. And I said, are you leaving enough hair on there? And she goes, oh, yeah. By the time I got done, I had no hair. It was so short. Thank goodness my hair was a little bit curlier at that time. And it was so short that I came home, and gel would not even make it lay down. It was really bad, and I actually cried over that hairdo. I remember you crying. I had never cried over a hairdo. Never. I actually went back and complained. I says, I know there's nothing you can do about me, because you can't put it back, but I want you to know I'm very unhappy. And I says, and I'm normally not unhappy about any haircut. I've had some really bad haircuts in the years, but this one was the topper. And I remember going to work, and one of the girls said, I like your haircut. And I'm thinking, you gotta be nuts. It was so short. But as it grew in, it did look pretty good. And so then it seemed like that's when I started wearing short hair. But I guess it was a good thing and a bad thing, but it was the worst haircut I'd ever had in my life. Well, those are the stories of today. I guess I ended up with something that I wasn't sure what I was going to even talk about. But thanks to Caroline, OMAD Caroline, she did this tag. It had a lot of other stuff in it, but a lot of them had nothing that I would talk about.
Doesn't really pertain to you.
No. So I just touched on the ones that I could tell you something about. So I hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you all again tomorrow. Bye-bye.